Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. At AM 630. WMAL.
It's 8:37 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman. We are joined on the phone line by D.C. Councilmember Jack Evans, who's good enough to join us here to talk about a lot of things going on down at the district building right now, and we're also going to get into a discussion about the traffic cameras and the speed cameras. Councilman Evans, thank you so much for joining us. We do greatly appreciate it.
Well, again, thank you very much for having me. I always enjoy it.
Well, I want to start out by talking about what's been going on down at the district building lately. I mean, Harry Thomas Jr., Kwame Brown, there are questions swirling about the campaign of the mayor and questions about why Suleiman Brown ended up getting a job for a while in the administration of our mayor. Marion Barry saying things that, really, quite frankly, border on racism. A lot of things going on right now that have got to be very troubling to you. I know that you care a great deal about this city, and you care a great deal about the council and how the city is run. What's going on down there?
Well, you identified we have a number of distractions going on, certainly with a number of my colleagues who have done illegal things that have required them to resign from office, and some of the other issues you mentioned, a cloud over the mayor, cloud over some of my other colleagues. So it's really problematic for the leadership of the city. And it's very ironic in contrast to how the actual city is doing. Right now, Washington, D.C. is the envy of every city in the country. Our finances are stronger than every other city. Development taking place, we're the envy of cities across the country because of what's happening in this city. And it's just a shame that given how far Washington has come, the progress we've made, that we have some political leaders who have just taken advantage of the system. Now, it infuriates me.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you, though, because there have been some quotes, some have been anonymous, attributed to members of the council that say, look, the mayor and this thing that's still looming over his head right now, he knows whether or not he did anything wrong, and if he did, he needs to just step down. Where are you on the mayor and that investigation?
Well, again, you have to wait and see how it plays out. And you have to be sympathetic in one sense that the mayor, I'm sure, is taking advice from his lawyers to say nothing because of his situation. On the other hand, as mayor of the district, you're looking for some assurance that indeed that he didn't do anything wrong. So it's a real difficult situation that the mayor finds himself in.
On the budget, you said D.C. is the envy of most cities in America. Bars have to get to stay open now later in order to meet needs. We have speed radar cameras, red light cameras everywhere. There was this whole thing where there was a surplus, but still taxes needed to be raised, or we needed to squeeze a little bit more money out of taxpayers. How is that possible? I mean, how was it that there was somewhat of a surplus, but still there was need to bring in more revenue?
Because we spent too much money. I mean, I'll tell you, just in a nutshell, we spend on our school system more money than any city in America per student. In our human services area, we spend more money per person than any city in America. And frankly, I have a council down here that if they get a dime, they spend $1. And it's frankly we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And it sounds so Republican of me to say that, and I don't mean to come across like that. But the bottom line is we are raising more money in this city than we ever had in the history of the city, yet we're spending more. And one of the things that the new leadership in this city has to come to grips with is we have to live within the means that we have, which is plenty. We did not need to raise taxes. We did not need to furlough workers, and we did not need to put in some of these, what you call like the red light cameras, which are just a nuisance to many of our residents.
But just let me get this on the record. You had a surplus that could have covered the projected budget gap for next year, correct?
Yes and no. The surplus, the way our finances are set up, when you get a surplus from a prior year, it has to go into our savings account. You cannot spend it on the following year's expenses. And then actually it's a good thing, because it helps build our savings account up and make sure that the council and the mayor don't just spend all the money we get in the surplus.
All right. Now, let's talk about these red light cameras and the traffic cameras. I mean, it's bad now. I mean, for a lot of people who come, I had to go downtown for a deal the other day, and I actually thought, I don't really think I want to go because there's a pretty good chance that somewhere between here and downtown, I'm going to get either a red light thing because I get stuck in an intersection, or I'm going to get 3 miles an hour over the speed limit, and I'm going to get a ticket. And they're expensive tickets. Doesn't at some point that become a problem for the District of Columbia?
Yes, it does, and I'm hearing from my constituents everywhere. You have, on the one hand, a legitimate safety issue. You don't want people to run red lights. You don't want people to speed, and we understand that. But the way the system is now getting set up, as you pointed out, it's almost a gotcha. You have a speed camera at the bottom of a hill, or at the top of, when you go under Thomas Circle and you're coming up the hill and you accelerate, and there's a speed camera there that gets you. That is out of bounds, and frankly, I have talked to the chief and other people about eliminating that type of gotcha situation where, to me, it just seems like you're just trying to collect revenue. So we really have to come to a balance between really legitimately putting in safety measures versus just soaking the residents for more money.
Whose decision is it to put up these cameras and place them in the spots where they are located right now?
Well, it goes to several departments: the Metropolitan Police Department, Department of Public Works, and Department of Transportation. They all have a hand in it.
So, is it possible that you could that either the chief of police or the police department or DDOT can look at these things and say, "Hey, take them out," or do they have to go? If you've allocated so many cameras, do they have to go throughout the city, or can you put them in one spot more than another?
Well, they move around, as you pointed out, and they always move around. And what you can do, though, is eliminate the areas where the residents at least feel that they're being played gotcha. And I think that's what's going to be happening as we talk to the different officials, that they have to have a plan that is more conducive to safety and less conducive to trying to raise revenue.
All right, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier that hey, you're very concerned about what's going on with the council. You've been in D.C. quite some time. You know exactly what it was like maybe in the 80s, and people didn't have any faith in the government actually doing things, whether it was plowing the roads, picking up trash, or whatever. That seems to have changed in the last 10, 15 years. Are you worried that we're on that road back to the problems that we saw in the 1980s in Washington, D.C., when there wasn't much faith at all in government?
I'm not, and you had identified exactly where we are. We have changed the whole culture of the government in the sense that everything is working much better. Now, it doesn't mean everything is working the way it should. I pointed out about the schools and some of the other areas, DCRA, the Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, we still get constant complaints. But the fact is that we're picking up the trash, trimming the trees, all the basic services, cleaning the streets that the city and the residents expect. And no, I don't see any slippage on that. We have some really, really good department heads and good workers who are making the city move forward. So that part is the good part. The bad part is the political leadership that has put the city again on the, I always used to say, the butt of the late night talk show jokes, and we're back there again. And it's so outrageous to me, given the progress we've made in the last 10 to 15 years, that we find ourselves back in that situation again.
Well, it does hurt, I think, the district's efforts when they want to have more independent rule from Congress.
No question.
Yeah,
no question it hurts in that area. When we were really making progress towards budget autonomy and those types of issues, I think all of that is going to go by the wayside.
All right, Councilmember Jack Evans, good to have you on. Thanks very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks.